Is the purpose of education to make the student more employable, or is it to prepare a student to take up a role beyond the workplace, to become an active member of the society? You might think theoretically that is the right way to think about education, but the hard reality is that there are loans to pay, and people must think about employability as one of the necessary outcomes, maybe a subset of higher education. At the same time, when you see the increasing number of students who do not get a job from the campus, that number has been going up in the recent times across the world. The number of people who are not able to find a job after having a degree can be a disappointing factor. So, should the college be responsible for giving them a refund? Well, there is actually an educational startup which has been working in this space and which offers to refund 60% of the fee if the graduating student does not find a job of a certain caliber. That means it pays a certain amount. I actually have that person coming up today to talk to you. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining us from. My name is Abhijit Bhaduri, and I work in the area of talent management. And I really have this podcast with the idea of talking about talent and technology in this world which is evolving at such a fascinating pace. Today, I have with me Varun Satya, who is the founder and the CEO of KRAFTSHALA. The half-life of a skill has dropped dramatically. So, educational institutions very often don't upgrade their curriculum enough. And is that what is causing the employment crisis or not? But let me not give away the game.
Thank you very much, Abhijit. It's my pleasure to be here with you.
Varun, tell us about your journey. What did you do before you went to Kraftshala?
Got it. So I had a very conventional journey into business, which started through engineering. So I did an engineering degree, then I did an MBA, then I worked at Nestle largely in marketing, worked for KitKat, then Maggie sauces, then Maggie noodles, and then started a venture in education. My first venture didn't work out well. It was built in the competitive exam space. I did that for about 10 months. Then I realized, okay, no, this is not what I am excited by. So I shut that piece down, started working on projects which were closer to my heart. And Kraftshala was one of those ideas. We've had, I'd say, two phases in Kraftshala. In the first phase, we looked at ourselves as a learning company that also does online courses. So in that phase, we were basically kind of like a supplementary course to the elite B schools in India. So the IIMs, ISB, FMS, XLRI, Gen students used to take up our courses while they were on campus. And these were online courses. So they were kind of supplementary to what they were studying as ways to get really practical insights. And 2020, we made a decisive shift. We said that we want to build full programs that are going to be available for not just these elite schools, but the large masses in this country and would launch their careers. Today, we run essentially programs in marketing and sales that are full-time in nature, that are very intense, but have the distinction of having the best placement rate in India. So across the 30 odd batches that we have run in, we have had a placement rate of 94% in each of those batches. So that is essentially what Kraftshala does.
Fascinating. When you say a 94% placement, so who is actually joining Kraftshala? What is the profile of the person who's joining? Is this the undergraduate student? Is this the person who's working for a couple of years? Is somebody who's looking to improve their career prospects? Who's the person?
Yeah, so basically, these courses are amazing to kickstart your career in either marketing or sales. And so the typical audiences would comprise of about 80% would have their highest degree as an undergraduate degree. So they finish the undergraduate degree because the courses are full-time in nature at about 5 months on average. And then about 15 to 17% are those who have actually also completed a master's as well. So one of the fascinating things about the ecosystem today is that people shift their career. So we get people in their 30s, in some cases in their 40s, who've done a lot of other things and who now want to kickstart their marketing career. So they would have had a full journey. And then there is that last percentage. It used to be about 2% in our first year. Today, it's about 5%. Are those who are skipping college altogether. They do our program. So they're people just in the last 10 days, we've had three such people land jobs. Skipped the college completely. In one case, a girl, 18, directly took up the program. In another case, somebody who was 23 who had sort of dropped out of college, had worked for a couple of years and then taken up this course. So that audience is now about 4 to 5% who do not have a college degree, who take up our course and then launch their career directly.
Do you think that the college degree has become irrelevant?
So the interesting bit is that it's kind of been on that path for a long period of time. So today I can purchase an IIT degree for about 1.5 lakh without ever having to go into an IIT. I can do it. I can do the degree online. I don't have to sit for any classes. I can, I just have to clear the exams and I'll get a degree. And that degree will not have any distinctiveness versus what somebody who's on campus who's getting it. That is the situation as of now. And we've been on this path for a while. And essentially, companies survive by getting cutting edge talent, right? So if the talent in one organization is foundationally better, and better does not mean, in aptitude terms, it just means that they are more aligned, that they are more technologically savvy to what is needed, they're good problem solvers, etc. Right? So essentially, if you have better talent, then you're going to win in the marketplace. And so therefore, whether that talent comes from place A or place B really does not matter. So we've been on this path for a while. And I think we first saw that change in technology talent where, for coders, people were much more open because there was just that kind of demand. And now that is seeping in other places as well. So in the marketing and sales in particular, right? It's very easy to measure success. Either you deliver the numbers or you didn't deliver. Similarly for marketing as well. So therefore, to that extent, all of these areas are now kind of driven by skills. Degrees is to the extent that they are irrelevant, I think gradually more and more so. Probably, like I would say that this is an irreversible trend. Like there are factors in play here, which means that it's never going to come in. Still not to say that credentials won't matter altogether, because there is a role of credentialing which is there, but not in the same way that it used to be earlier. That era, I think, is dead and buried.
I'm going to sort of take you back to something that you said, that an IIT degree can be done for about 1.5 lakh. Explain to me a little more about what do you mean? Is this the online version of the
That's right.
certifications that IIT offers, which are the really
Yeah.
shorter term,
Yeah.
pieces that, and most of the even the B schools are doing this. That you have a certificate program for like 3 months or 6 months, and there's no
Yeah.
qualitative difference between somebody who's done 2 years, spent a whole lot of more time. So if that is where the problem is, then we are talking about two distinct problems. One is we are saying that the value of education or credentialing, actually, I should not say education because education is valid. It's just that the surface level version, which used to, you would say that if the person is finished from IIT, the person must be good. That's no longer true, as we can see in dropping number of job placements. But I think the bigger question is also that, the value of surface level knowledge is disappearing. And that's what is the problem you're trying to solve. Is that a fair restatement of what we have spoken so far? You to subscribe to my newsletter on LinkedIn and share it with your followers. Thank you so much for doing this. Now back to the show.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent phrasing. I would say that the as the rules exist in India, there are select universities which can offer full degrees. So see, these are not just certifications, which are also offered, these full degrees. And those degrees are not indistinguishable from a degree that is issued to a student on campus. So IITs and various other institutions, I'm using IIT because they're the best brand name in the country.
Yeah.
But any other institution, or let's say any other elite institution, about 100 odd universities can offer those kinds of degrees there. So degrees is something which has become very easy to acquire. And what we've seen in education over the last few years is that is the first phase, right? Where a lot of degrees have actually been delivered. that has not translated into better learning, right? And the reason for that is essentially it comes down to the way the education system is set up, not just in colleges, but preschools as well. So in India, we go by rote learning, and there is a lot of relevance to static knowledge. So, for example, if you want to pass the class 7th exam, you need to know what are the different kinds of plantations that are existing in Africa, right? So, therefore, that kind of knowledge extends right up to the college and postgraduate. That knowledge is irrelevant in the technology age, the AI driven age that we live in. So there is no value to remembering stuff in that fashion. Still, memory is useful, but not in that fashion. What you really want to do is to build problem solvers. You want people to come in and be able to attack a problem in different ways, right? And that is essentially what we need to solve for. And this is very important, I would say, and I'll take a little bit of a digression here in a country like India, because the average household income of KRAFTSHALA student is about 10 lakh rupees. That's also the average household income broadly of India. I mean, it'll be a little bit lesser, but let's say in the consuming class, that's what it is, right? So, a household of 5 people are existing on an income of 10 lakh rupees. It's a tough gig, and a stable income, working in a respectable brand, and getting that stable income is a huge deal. I grew up my father was a doctor, he worked for the government. And I couldn't for the life of me imagine why somebody went into such a good medical school, would spend their entire career in education. I couldn't understand it for many years. And then, it was when I sort of began my own journey that I realized that when he sort of got into med school, he had lost his father. So my father, this is 1970, he's lost his father, he's the eldest. He almost lost the chance to go to school because when he lost his father, there was a lot of pressure on my grandmother that no, you should make him sit in a shop and earn money. And she's like, no, no, he's smart, let him go to school. So he almost lost that chance to actually go to school. And so therefore when he graduated, he was very happy with the government job, and that stable income meant a lot to him. I grew up in a household where stable income was not a challenge, and I kind of realized that stable income is like oxygen. If you have it, you never think about it. Like we're never thinking about oxygen right now, but if it is less, if it is missing, then that's all that your mind really thinks about. And so therefore in a country like ours, jobs and respectable jobs which deliver a stable income, those are of absolute essence. And that is the biggest role of higher education in India. It is to help people become job ready. It is to help them place in jobs. And that's essentially what these courses, whether they're online or offline, degrees or non-degrees, anything that you're doing, that is what it has to solve for.
Therefore, the problem that you're solving for, if I were to now summarize so far, we are saying that one of the things that has happened is that traditional education has undergone dilution in multiple ways. One is because the level of knowledge itself is changing so rapidly. So, and what the term you used is static knowledge is no longer very relevant. How do you use that to solve a problem is what so for the benefit of the listeners, the way I would translate it is to say that LinkedIn very often will say that critical problem solving is an important skill. This is one of the top skills that employers are looking for. What it means is you use your knowledge to solve a problem that business is facing. So if you're a salesperson, you have that knowledge of sales. How are you able to solve a scenario where sales is not growing? So how do you solve it using this knowledge that you have? And if you're saying, and Varun, here is where I think there is another path which sort of opens up that, traditionally there have been two factors on which careers have been built. One is education, that you have a degree, therefore you must be really good, therefore that gives you stability of income. Two, you have experience. And that, so as you are sort of looking at it, over a span of time, you say, oh, this person has worked for 20 years or 30 years. So you have 30 times more experience than, let's say, somebody who's worked for 1 year. Even that is not valid anymore, right? Why is that?
Yeah, so I think goes to an idea that you've written about in the past, which is that the half-life of skills is rapidly decreasing, right? To the extent that you've written that it's about 3 years today, and we can imagine or visualize a future where it might not even be that, right? And the reason that that is happening is because the pace of technological change is very, very rapid, right? So even if we look at fields which are somewhat separate from technology, right? We used to think technology is coding, analytics, right? That's about it. But if you look at HR, for example, so much of the work that we're doing today can be automated to a large extent, right? And so therefore there is a problem to be solved there in terms of figuring out what automations are there, but there's also the usage of technologies which are quite uh, rapidly changing. And so therefore, I think that while for a conventional university they would take about 18 to 24 months to change a course, for us the course changes every month. And it's not something
No,
when
no,
we
no, no. Hold
started
on, hold
craft.
on. Stop. You change your course every month. Is that true?
That's right. One every single month, we make substantial changes to the course, and it's the same marketing that we are really teaching. So it's not as if the field has evolved, but and we didn't think that this would be the case when we started out, let's say a few years ago. But it's initially we thought, okay, we'll keep changing it right now and then it'll go away, but it never goes away, right? And the reason that that is happening is because of technology. The landscape is changing, so the platforms that people are consuming the media on, they change very rapidly. Then the platform backend, they change very rapidly. Then of course new platforms come in which are completely different, and then there is AI which kind of twist the whole thing altogether. So it's like every single month there is a substantial change in course curriculum which is there, which therefore makes experience count for less. I think that's something that a lot of people haven't understood in the ecosystem today, that yes, there is value to experience, there's value to being a good problem solver as well, but without the technological readiness of the talent, uh, things don't really work out as well.
That when we watch a film, a lot of times I like to put on the subtitles, so, and that of course is what you see. Every piece of content that is happening today is allowing for that. And the reason was, TikTok suddenly came up and discovered that the reason why their videos were so popular, which had the subtext, was because the kids could scroll and watch the content on their phone in the class without the sound. So that's really was the big insight which led to this entire thing happening. In the same manner, using the same metaphor, your technological awareness, the digital skills, or your comfort with AI, this is becoming that subtext which has to be there. I mean, you can't remain relevant if you have not updated the field. So, like what you said, you're updating the piece of knowledge every month. You are also building in, awareness. And the problems that you can solve is also, disappearing in the same way. So I think the whole business that we are really talking about is how do we make this entire process become relevant on a continuous basis? So I think that's the whole magic that needs to be solved for.
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and I think that people also yearn for that stability. That how do I make this work on a consistent basis? I think there are some underpinning principles which are there. So, for example, problem solving is a skill that you have to get better at, and if I speak as an individual, as a professional, I would say that my own problem solving skills at I find today are much better than they were 12 months ago, which is probably the case even last year as well. So to that extent, I think that there are certain skills that are unchanging and that you want to keep sort of growing and working on them. And with that, let's say foundational base, and problem solving will be one of them. The ability to work with people in productive relationships, I think that's going to be another one. And so there are two or three things like that. And with that being the, let's say, the underpinning, you'd want to make sure that you're learning the cutting edge tools all the time. I think that is the thing that people just have to accept, that what they know, part of that will disappear. And it's not to say that it will permanently disappear, right? So it's not as if, if the change is happening, it is radically sort of something so different that, like all what I've learned in the past won't have some value. But for sure, if I'm not learning the new stuff, then, I could miss on something very important. And then there are cycles to it. So a great example of that in our industry is SEO, search engine optimization,
Optimization.
which is the, this thing that when somebody searches for, let's say, the best shoes under 1,000 rupees or 2,000 rupees on the internet, if you are the top result and you don't have to pay Google for it, then that's very valuable, right? So that is what search engine optimization is. And it's been around since search has been around, right? So we're talking about now 25 years of search engine optimization being the skill. Never goes out of fashion, really. And even as AI platforms have come in, right? So a Perplexity, for example, is another kind of search. So now SEO is being sort of now oriented towards working for ChatGPT and Perplexity as well. So to that extent, without the knowledge of ChatGPT and Perplexity, you're not very useful. But it's not as if the old principles completely died. They just are now being reimagined in a different way. And so therefore, there is a build of knowledge that you can keep doing as well. But you have to be building all the period of time. I had this, I once read this great story. I follow cricket a lot. And it's one of those Shane Warne stories that, really stick in. So Shane Warne is an Australian spinner, no longer with us, but probably one of the world's best. And he was once asked that, there's Monty Panesar, which is an English spinner. He's going to come to Australia. So, like, what do you think about his chances now that he's played 31 test matches, right? So he's no longer a rookie spinner. And Shane Warne, being Shane Warne, said that Monty hasn't played 31 test matches. Monty has played the same test match 31 times, which is to say that number of years of experience is not actual experience. What you're learning from that and how you're adapting is what experience truly counts. So if you've worked in a job for 5 years or 10 years, that does not mean that you have learned worth 5 years or 10 years of the job. There is more that some people are able to do, and that should be the goal for every profession.
So, in some sense, does the definition of employability, I remember we used to always sort of, look at all these studies which say only 10% of India's, MBAs or even engineers, a small percentage, are really employable. That's what the companies are looking at. And today we see that that's happening. I mean, very few opening level jobs are being offered. I mean, the colleges are struggling because the best of colleges, they are unable to place the students. Yeah. And some of the largest employers of the country are now hiring a fraction of the number of people that they used to hire. So in that case, how are you able to manage this 94%? Is that the percentage you said? 94%
90,
people get
94,
placement.
absolutely. Absolutely. 94% in every batch, 30 batches in a row. And let me tell you this, all the data points that you're given is correct, except that for me as a business owner, as somebody who runs a company in education, my biggest issue is not placements, because for us, we're running out of talent. So for us, placements last year, the entire last year, have never been better. And in fact, this quarter, Jan to March, has been the strongest in all of our time at KRAFTSHALA. So even as overall hiring is getting impacted, but if you have the right skills, there is a huge demand for it. And that demand is really surging so much that we've had to open up for some recruiters, some of our key recruiters, hiring of students who have not yet fully graduated, because they have clients that they have onboarded and they need the talent, but we don't have enough talent to sort of really give them, right? And so to that extent, I think that employability is both a challenge, but if you know these skills, there is a huge demand for it. The salary jumps are very good for these students because they are in demand, and obviously they work in these cutting edge companies, the likes of, let's say, Google in some cases, Lenskart in some cases, and obviously the old established stalwarts like Unilever and Nestle and all of that, right? So to that extent, I think that this is a two-phase thing, right? And and there are people who are just not taking enough of path B, which is the actual path, which is the path of good problem solving combined by technological readiness. If you take that, a lot of job opportunities are coming up.
So, as we are coming to the end of our conversation, I kind of always think that in India, you need to create 1 million new jobs every month in order to place, when we talk about demographic dividend, that's really, in some sense, can be a challenge, but I really think it's an opportunity because this whole business of really having superficial knowledge and just about, do something and just change jobs and get your next salary jump. I think both models have died, so bypassing depth in your education is no longer an option because you will be completely out of the market. So you will not have any takers, even as you graduate. Number two, when you are looking at the knowledge that you have, if the institution from where you are taking that knowledge is not updating itself regularly, like you said, that was for me the biggest, most fascinating point of data that you update your courses every month. For me, that's a big deal. So that's your second reason why people need to worry about that. And the third is even if you've crossed that hurdle, you've got your job, you need to be able to continuously stay current so that your experience stays current. Otherwise, you have 1 year's experience done 31 times, is the answer. And I've
Yeah.
heard a similar kind of a story from Harsha Bogle, who was, on my podcast some time back. And Harsha talked about how when he moved from Test cricket commentary onto T20 or one day cricket and all of that, each time the model had to change. When he changed countries, he was, doing something in Australia. The model of cricket commentary was completely different. And every profession has actually had that moment.
Yeah.
So, what are your closing thoughts to inspire the people who are sort of really looking to face this problem and want to solve this problem? How do you sort of look at
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, I want to end on a super optimistic note, which is that, one of the biggest challenges of work in the 20th century was that it was monotonous. And I think that there is now infinite opportunities there for somebody who has a learning mindset. Because number one, it is very easy to learn things. So we've had students who have started learning digital marketing for the first time at the age of 47 and have started working in digital marketing at the age of 47, right? So, and that's common, right? So now we have 42-year-old, 39-year-old, 44-year-old. Every month I can see something is sort of churning there. So the first piece is that there are infinite opportunities which are opening up. And the second piece is that everything is interesting, right? So therefore, because there are so many opportunities opening up, you don't have to follow a conventional path that, okay, if you're working in HR, then you have to do these four things. There are actually very interesting things in HR which are happening up as they are in all the fields which are there. And so therefore, in some ways, yes, the old world is dead, but the new world is very, very exciting. It's very, very rewarding to people who have a learning mindset. And there is just a lot of value for everybody to come in and create, which is what I think the economy really should be all about. So I'm personally very excited about it, and I would encourage everybody to not have this gloom doom that their jobs are at risk. Sure, they're at risk, but a lot of opportunities which are opening as well, and that kind of work will be amazing for them to pursue.
And I think the way to think about what Varun Satya of KRAFTSHALA just said is that, yes, that the road on which you used to drive the cycle, that's probably getting shut down. But, think about it. There's an 8-lane superhighway getting built. And so you need to learn the vehicle that's going to be able to travel on that 8-lane superhighway. Thank you so much for being here and putting so much of hope and positive perspective in what has always been looked at as a huge problem that we need to solve. Thanks a million for being here for all of our listeners. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.